Let's meet a new menstrual disc brand from Australia, Hey Zomi, and comes in 2 colors and it has a small removal loop. Hi and welcome to the channel. My name is Kim Rosas. I'm a reusable period products expert, and here at Period Nirvana you're going to learn all the things you need to know about how to use and succeed with reusable menstrual cups and discs. Period Nirvana is the educational website where you're going to find an amazing helpful quiz, and if you're in the US you can shop for reusables on Period.Shop, which is my store for a curated selection of period brands. I only allow the best of the best into the store so you don't have to sort through the clutter of iffy looking brands like you would on other big box stores or billion-dollar websites. It's been a while since my last video. Things are quite busy here in the Rosas household. We had the end of the school year. I had a lot of research I was doing for a bigger project I'm working on, which is keeping me very, very busy. And my son got one of those really nasty strains of strep that got us quite scared. So now that we are through the worst of it, I can get back to work. And my most recent cycle, I was able to try the Hey Zomi disc. So now let's do the review. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more reviews like this. Hey Zomi is the first menstrual disc made in and based in Australia. So it comes in 2 colors. This is the white, the black is in the box, and because you know I love an unboxing, we're going to get to that next. Hey Zomi comes in a very compact paper tube. Paper tubes are really all the rage in packaging these days, and this is no exception, except it is quite a squat version. It's a nice snug fit. They have a very, very large and very detailed instruction manual, so you'll definitely want to check that out. The drawings are super helpful as you go through. It's one of the best instruction booklets in terms of visibility, as well as just the helpfulness of the content. And they also have a QR code that you can scan to get support from the brand, and their website has tons of FAQs and embedded videos to help you from the brand themselves. And your disc is seated perfectly in the packaging. So it has a little slit for the loop. Black discs are going to have lint on them. They are going to come with lint that is from all of the paper product in here, plus you have a pouch. So that is it. That's really all of the unboxing. There's not much here. Now let's talk about the features. Hey Zomi is a one size fits most disc. It is 65 millimeters in diameter. It holds 52 milliliters. In comparison, it is very in line with a lot of menstrual disc brands, although it is on the smaller sides. Now let's talk about firmness. Menstrual disc firmness can be important. It might make it easier to fold if it is on the softer side for insertion, but then sometimes it's harder to push into place if it's too soft. And as far as your wear, softer discs tend to be ones that can come out of place for the self-emptying function, and I have a video on self-emptying if you're not sure what that is, where the disc tilts and some blood comes out over the toilet. It shouldn't happen when you're not over the toilet. That would just be a flat-out leak. But if it is a softer disc, it might lead to leaks instead of just self-emptying. So something to be aware of. It's all about what works best for your body, and in a lot of cases, it's hard to know that until you've tried one, which is why it's always great to wear backup when you're trying any new cup or disc. I want to say this is between a 2.5 and a 3. I am leaning towards a 3, but it is a very short rim. Even though it is a 3 and I'm doing a lot of comparisons to very similar discs, it doesn't have the presence of some of the other discs that have like a more prominent rim and a thicker rim and a bigger rim. And so it's a very lightweight 3, which is why I feel like it's somewhere between a 2.5 and a 3. It's a bit hard to call, actually. The basin is thin. It's not the thinnest basin I've ever seen. I'd say like the Flex is probably the thinnest basin. So it has a bit of structure to it. And the feature that I think we're all interested in is the removal loop. This removal loop is attached at the outer rim, but in a way that slopes down so that it shouldn't be uncomfortable for the wearer. It is just a gradual attachment in a very smooth way. And the protrusion that it has should actually help prevent it from rotating in some users. I can't say for all, but I would bet money on the fact that it's going to prevent some of the rotation issues that notch style discs have, because there's nothing keeping it from moving around. This is just a little bit of resistance here to help prevent it from moving out of the way, because when you go to remove your menstrual disc with a loop, you want to be able to find the loop at the front of the vagina when you are hooking it. And if it were rotated, you would then have to remove it like a traditional menstrual disc, which does defeat the purpose. The loop itself is rounded. There's no edges, there's nothing sharp on that, and it should fit a finger just fine. It does fit a finger loosely. It is not super tight on your finger, so you might end up wanting to engage your thumb to have the most control as you remove it. I know most of you watching have some familiarity with menstrual discs or menstrual cups. However, if you don't, here is a quick rundown of how this whole thing works before we get into my review and comparisons to other brands. First, you do fold it to insert. Menstrual discs can be really, really narrow when you fold them properly. This one has a small rim and a shorter rim, so it gets very narrow, especially because it is a little bit on the softer side. As you insert, you can use two hands. I'm using one because I'm holding a model. You want the bowl side facing up towards you, and you want to angle the disc towards your tailbone as you insert. So if this were my body, I would angle it like this instead of straight, perpendicular up and down, because you do have sort of a slant to your vagina. That is the most successful way of inserting a disc and helps make sure it sits underneath your cervix and tucks behind it, because if it doesn't, that might leak. All right, let's go. We're going to insert, angle it towards your back, and you want to try to keep this tab centered, because if it stays centered when you insert it, fingers crossed, it's going to be in the center when it's time to remove. Give this front rim a nice tuck to make sure it's high and tucked behind the pubic bone, which is what keeps your menstrual disc in place. Discs are held in place not by your muscle tone like a menstrual cup, but actually by a pubic bone, and it sits like tucks under it like it's a shelf. And then if it's up behind the cervix and tucked behind the pubic bone, you should not have any leaks. And will need to change as needed for your flow, but if you have an average period with a product like Hey Zomi that holds 52 milliliters, you should probably get 10 to 12 hours. If you have a very heavy period, you may be emptying sooner than that. And or if you have a heavier period, you could simply self-empty over the toilet to give yourself a longer wear time so you don't have to fully remove it. Once it is time to remove, you can do different techniques. For this disc, I'm usually using a middle finger or a pointer finger to locate this loop. So as long as it's centered, it should be easy to find. You'll be able to catch it, pull. I actually found myself mostly using my thumb to remove it with my finger. And then as you remove it, you want to angle it up and maybe even tilt your pelvis a little bit as you remove it to keep whatever is in the disc from spilling on your hands. Let it fall backwards, empty that, and that is how you remove it. Now, some people might want to just use a single finger. I found single finger removal not as reliable and didn't feel as secure because it's not tight on my fingers, so I always ended up engaging my thumb. Now that we have far more options in the reusable menstrual disc space, I can no longer go through and compare every single brand to the Hey Zomi. I will compare some that I think are of note, because a lot of people are interested in this as an option who like loops. Let's start with the Hello Disc, because this has been asked quite a lot. The Hey Zomi holds 52 milliliters. The Hello Disc holds 50. Hello Disc is 68 millimeters diameter. The Hey Zomi is 65, so it is slightly smaller. And on the firmness, this is a softer firmness than the Hello Disc. The rim is also a smaller rim. This one has more thickness to it in terms of how thick they are. The Hey Zomi has this sort of protruding loop that you hook with a finger. The Hello Disc has a double loop. You can wear it like 4 different ways, but you can trim one loop off of the Hello Disc, or you can wear it in different configurations, tucked or dropped if you have a high cervix. Hey Zomi has a little bit of length to it, but I don't know. I would say specifically it is a high cervix option, but if you have an average cervix or low cervix, it should work great. The Lani disc, which is a new disc I haven't talked about on this channel before, is a Mexican brand, and it has something similar but in a smaller footprint. It's a very, very simple, tiny little strand, and so to engage it, it might take a lot more finding, but it's definitely completely tucked out of the way. It's very similar to the Formosa disc, actually. So here you just kind of grab it. This one's very easy to find, but they are very, very similar in their firmnesses. I would say they're both between a 2.5 and a 3. This one is tight on your finger if you get it engaged. This one is a little bit looser. So they're similar, but not. The Formoonsa disc is an oval, and it has 3 loops in case it rotates, and it has that sort of notch hybrid removal system, thicker than the Lani, but a similar concept. Cora has 2 discs. This is the soft fit. This is a 1.5, so it's the softest menstrual disc you can get. The Hey Zomi is like a soft average, and it has the notch, which sometimes rotates, whereas this one has the extended loop that hopefully will help prevent rotation. Now for the review portion. In my cycle with Hey Zomi, it was a weird one because I thought I started my period and went ahead and put the disc in. Let's try the Hey Zomi disc for the first time, and my period just started, just boiled it. 12 hours later, I went to remove it, and I had, in fact, not started my period. There was nothing there.
So I don't even know if yesterday truly counts as day 1. Things have been off to a weird start. I don't know if that is a sign of perimenopause. So let's see how full or not this disc is after overnight.
So I actually wore the disc 2 days for dry runs where my period was teasing itself, but it never officially came. By the time it really came, I was like on day 3 of wearing the disc essentially.
Even though it feels like day 3, it's actually only day 1. And I'm removing the Hey Zomi disc for the first time for myself when I'm editing later for review, reminding myself that I have auto dumped 1 time today, and we'll see what's left after all of that activity and see how the removal process is. So not mess free, but not messy, but no leaks, totally comfortable.
So that was a little bit weird for me, not my usual cycle. It was also a little bit of a heavier cycle than I think I usually experience. With discs, there's not really much measuring to be done because when you remove the disc, everything falls out. On top of that, I will say that Hey Zomi did a lot of auto dumping for me, or self-emptying. I know some people don't like that term.
It is day 2, full day 2, and I've auto dumped a lot. So I think because it's a little bit softer, I'm auto dumping more than I might be used to with a firmer disc. So sometimes that could be good, but it has been slightly annoying. But it doesn't take much to make it auto dump, which is the annoying part because I usually have a little more control over that part. But take it out, see what's left after just auto dumping again.
With the frequency of the auto dumping of Hey Zomi, that was one of my complaints, just because throughout the day, you get a little tired of wiping and wiping and wiping blood without the bidet. As mentioned previously in the video, auto dumping is when you engage your pelvic floor muscles in combination with sitting on the toilet. That pushes down the disc and lets some of the fluid escape. And that can be great when you have a heavy period, but not everyone likes it. And for me, I like to have a little bit of control over my self-emptying experience. I was self-emptying just during a regular number 1 tinkle visit, whereas in discs that I normally prefer, like a firmer disc, it would be only when I'm having a number 2 visit or if I physically push knowing I want to auto-empty that disc because I want to. This was like a you're gonna do it whether you want to or not situation. For my first insertion on my period and not on my period, really easy. Even though it was a softer disc than I typically go for by choice, I didn't have any issues inserting it even when I wasn't really on my period. Lubrication wise, it went in just fine. Fast and easy and tucked perfectly.
You ever think how weird my camera roll looks? I'm gonna have to point that higher. How are we doing this? I just squat. Today I'm struggling. It's been the longest day ever. Putting it in, easy peasy. You know, the thumb. I don't usually use the thumb, but that worked. A charm.
Once I was really on my period, there were no leaks. So that was very typical of my experience with menstrual discs. I only have had leaks in the past with softer and oval discs, so Diva disc and Ziggy. Softer and round discs work better for me during my day, with the exception of the auto dumping experience. That was pretty frequent. Now for the removal portion, which I know everyone's interested in. The Hello disc is always my preference just because I've never had any messy removals with the mechanism that the loop provides, and I wear it in the flipped position. So I thought this would be a pretty similar experience. And it was half and half. I did have some mess-free removals, although to be fair, it was on lighter days. But on my heavier days, I did always end up with some blood on my finger and thumb because I was sort of naturally wanting to use a finger and thumb pinch, just because this does not feel super secure.
Not bad today. And I did use my thumb and my finger, which you can tell. I used my thumb and my finger. That was very unexpected.
It's not a deal breaker for me. However, given that I have discs I can remove that are as comfortable, as leak-free, and no mess, if I were to pick, I would pick that one. But if this were the best disc for me in every way, except for just a little bit of blood on my finger and my thumb, I would go for this over a menstrual cup any day. I did have one particular incident. I don't know why for some of these reviews I have one particular incident, but this was my one particular incident. I went to remove the disc and I decided that, hey, I should really try a single finger removal. And because I want to kind of compare it to Hello Disc, which I talk about often because it has that single finger removal, this might be a single finger removal. So that's what I did. And it was the morning after having worn it for 12 hours or so. And I didn't auto dump that morning, but I think I just kind of went for it. I grabbed it and I pulled it down, and I don't know if you can see this in the video, but I'm doing it like this, and everything fell into my hand. Everything.
Oh my God.
And I had a very physical reaction to feeling a hot hand full of blood. I mean, it was all over my face that this was the not best experience ever. And it was so hot. Menstrual fluid coming out of your body is hot. Not like boiling hot, but very warm. And a lot of people will say, oh, it's okay, it's your own blood, and you shouldn't be icked out about it. And I get that. I think you should be very comfortable with your period and your blood, but most people are comfortable to a point where you're engaging with it, you know, a little bit on your hands, washing your cup. That stuff does not bother me. Having it dumped fully in my hand was more than I could personally take. So I think for me, if I were to use this another cycle, I would just go ahead and stick with that. The rest of the time was perfect. It was a comfortable disc for me. I don't have discomfort with firmer discs. I know some people still feel a little bit of pressure with a firmer disc. I've never really felt that, so I can't say, oh, this is better for me or more comfortable than a firm disc, because even like a flex disc reusable, that disc is still comfortable for me to wear. Insertion was easy. Removals were easy with that particular pinching method. Super easy to clean. Inside is shiny. No complaints there. I did it in the shower a few times. Easy to wash. All that was great. During the time of me filming this, Hey Zomi is only available through their website, direct to consumer, and that can be shipped. I think they're shipping it everywhere, but you're going to pay international postage for that. It's not available through my store, at least right now. Maybe in the future it will be. It's something I would definitely carry based on the branding, based on the people who run it. They're super, super nice. As far as where this ranks, I don't want to say right now how high it ranks. I do have to say, and I know it was like, oh, Kim, you're so biased. Hello Disc is still my number one. I was actually thinking this could really give Hello Disc a run for money, and it did. It did in so many ways. So to be fair, like, this is a very, very good alternative to Hello Disc. If you don't like the firmness of Hello Disc, or if maybe you found the Hello Disc harder to insert, this one has a different thickness of rim. It might be easier for you to insert. It doesn't have the longer tab, so it's not going to be as good for a high cervix, and it doesn't have sort of the different ways you can wear it. But I think like just this simplicity of the one single loop and the way it's connected to the rim is still comfortable. All of those are super positives, a very good alternative to Hello Disc if those other parts of Hello Disc are not your favorite. It could very well be my favorite disc that I use this year. I think the next product I'll try is probably the Lani disc from Mexico for my next cycle and see how that compares. These are very similar designs. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe for more reviews and period product content, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye. if you menstrual fluid, menstrual fluid.